Good evening, Daf Sadi Het Amud Aleph, 18 lines from the top. We're trying to figure out what's considered damage, hammering a coin, etc. I'll ask the question. Hikal and all if a master hit his Ibed and blinded him, Allah knows how to show his ear and he deafened him. That's enough to make the Ibed go free. He hit next to the eye on the wall and he can't see. Next to the ear and he can't hear. He doesn't go free. So we see from here that if you hit something and it doesn't have the same look as before, the same usage as before, even though the ear is still there, but now that since the ear can't hear, it's considered enough to free the abyss. Maybe the same thing. If you take off Abraham Lincoln from the coin, that should be the same thing. But say not a question because he holds his opinion like he said elsewhere. We say, the reason why a person who, right, we said earlier, a person who makes his fall deaf is hayab mita, because there is a habura, there's an internal wound inside that there's bleeding. And therefore, so too over here as well. The reason why over here you're hayab is not because it's just making him deaf, it's because you're obviously causing some type of wound, unlike the coin, which doesn't really change the coin if you just take out the image. Ramar Baraba says, someone slightly cuts the ear of his friend's cow. Patur from paying damages. My time, why? The cow is as is. The law about he didn't do anything wrong. And even though technically the whole only thing that was accomplished by cutting the ear makes a pasul for a korban, not a big deal. The kulu shvarim lavka b'mizbeach not all oxen are for the mizbeach, and therefore he's patur. Ask the question. If someone used the para aduma waters to use it for milacha, for the water or for the actual cow, and it makes it pasul for para aduma, because it's has actually enemy car. You can't recognize the damage. Not recognizable. We see over there that the work that you did with it, if you use it for measuring water, for example, measuring weights, that's considered unrecognizable damage. The work for the paraduma. But that implies but here regarding where you're cutting the cow's ear, that's recognizable. You see the mum. According to the when I said Amri, no, really, even if you cut the ear slightly, you're patur. The Hidush is the Hidush over there is not to teach you that physical things should be chayab, but over there the Hidush is that even things that's not physical by the melacha of the paraduma, you're chayab b'din shemaim and not completely patur. Amar Barabah says, someone burns the document of his friend, an IOU note. Reuben has a paper that says Shimon owes him $1,000. I take it and I burn it. I'm patur from paying him. I just burnt the paper. I didn't burn the loan. I burnt the paper. What's the case of this loan document? If there are witnesses who know what was written, let them write a new one. If there's no witnesses, how do you charge the guy who burnt it? How do you know it's a good shtar in the first place if it's burnt up? It's referring to a case where he believes it. I agree that, yeah, there was a document. I believe you owe $1,000, and therefore it's confirmed, and still I'm patur. That says you're patur from burning your friend's paper. Between these two rabbis. According to Rabbi Shimon, he holds that something that can lead you to money, something that causes you to have money, like an IOU document, that's considered actual money. Something that's causing money is not considered actual money. He says, 1 second. When do we say Rabbi Shimon holds that it's considered money? That's referring to a case where you have something that's actual money. Right, like I say, you steal and you steal and you slaughter a hagdish animal. That technically the guy has to replace it, therefore that's considered money, even though the actual animal was hagdish. Damar Barwa says, Someone stole chametz before Pesach. Someone took that stolen item and burnt it. B'ma'id patur. If you didn't burn during Pesach, you're patur. Shekom mitzuvim alav b'bero, because everybody has a chiyuv on Pesach to burn chametz. לאחר פסח goes after פסח, מחלוקת רבי שמעון ורבנן, it's מחלוקת. רבי שמעון אמר דבר הגון כמון דמי חייב. When רבי שמעון holds that something that's considered a possible benefit for money is considered money, you're חייב. ורבנן אמרי hat דבר הגון כמון לאו כמון דמי פטור, but רבנן holds that you're פטור. בדבר שאין עיקרם, but regarding something that does not have any value to it at all, מי אמרינן? Would Rabbi Shimon not agree that it also you'd be patur from that as well? Or said Amar Mimar, man did eat dina de garmi, whoever holds of garmi of girama, like this case of indirect damage, he would cause you to pay the document in full. Man loading in the garmi, he would make you only pay for the paper. Abu Uda some story, the Kafir Abram, the Ravashi, one time Rabam pushed Ravashi, he paid the full document for beams that were good for images, yani top tier stuff, like a loan that you collect top tier stuff for the guy, and he, even though he burnt it, document he made him pay. All right, next part of the Breta Mishnah said, Hametz v'avar Pesach omer lo haresh shachal lefanecha. If someone stole Hametz and Pesach passed, and the robber still owned it, and the robber can go back to him and say, "Here, it's yours," even though it's asur. Man Tana omerim be'isur hana'a haresh shachal lefanecha. Who's the Tana that holds that regarding items that are isur hana'a, you can return it as is? Marav Hizdar Rabbi Yaakov is Rabbi Yaakov. Danya, shor shemi, in case of an ox that killed a person. If it was not a verdict was not reached that it was guilty in Beddin, Mechara Machor, if he sold it, it works. Hedishu Mudash, if he made it Hekdesh, it works. Shahatobas Ram Mutar, if he's already able to eat it. Hachziro, Shomer the Ba'alav, if it was a watchman who was watching it and he gave it back to the owner, Muhzar is returned. Mishig Mardino, but after the verdict was already reached, Mecharo and Machor, it's not sold. Hedish Mudash, it's not Hekdesh. Shahatobas Rasur, if he's already asur to eat it. Hachziro Shomer the Ba'alav and Muhzar, and you can't return it to the owner and you have to replace it. Yaakov says, even after the verdict was reached, is considered returned. My God, this obviously the machloket should be based on the following. Because Yaakov would hold in regarding to Isur Hana'a, like this case of a shor Haniskal, supposed to die, it's Isur Hana'a, we see that he holds it. Even in that case, you can return that item back to the owner as is. Would not agree. It's not true. Everybody would agree regarding Isra you can return. Because if that was the case, the mahlokat should be based off of the case of where the guy returned the hametz on Pesach. Meaning, if Chachamim would actually hold that Isur Hana'ah is not returnable, then the machloket regarding the ox shouldn't have been only the ox. They should have also mentioned the case of the chametz on Pesach. So therefore, Hamim are not agreeing to that concept of Isra Hana'ah. Rather, it's just a separate answer for a shor. Amar Rav says, whether or not you're able to judge the shor without the owner. Yani if it's a watchman who's bringing the shor to the court to be chayav mitah because it killed under his watch, does that count? Rabbanan hold you can't judge the ox without an owner. Because the owner of the ox could say, "No, you brought my ox to Betin without me. I could have took my ox and ran to safety away from Betin." But now that you gave it over to the court, I can't get it back. It's going to die. You do kill it. You can condemn it and bring it to court without the owner. Because the guy can say what I did wrong. In the end, they would have done it without you anyhow, and therefore you didn't lose anything. Rabbi Chisda found Rabba have you learned any halachot and braytot regarding to Isur Hana'ah? Amarle, in Tinya, yeah, I do have one. Veheshiva de Gizla, the pasuk says that you shall return the stolen item. Why is the second part of pasuk that you stole? It's a stolen item, of course, it's what you stole. يحذرك إن شجزع teaches you that you should return the item as is. Me can amru, therefore we say over here like our Mishnah gazama given itself, he stole a coin and it became basul. Pirot became fruit became rotted. Yaimdeh made wine and it became vinegar. Turmat made timar that became tame. Chametz v'ala pesach. Chametz that pesach passed by. Behimash nedab avida. An animal that had an avida done with it. Beshor ad shadonag ma'idino, an ox that the betin did not was not done on it. Omer lahara ashla, you can give it to him. Man shemat ledamar ashla vadino in, whose opinion holds that you can still do it before the verdict was reached. But that sounds like after it was reached, you can't give it back anymore. So according to Rabbanan, and still we see that same Braita say that if you stole Chametz and Pesach passed, you can return it. So therefore we see, according to Rabba, he was right that Hachamim would agree that you can return the ox killed, and in the case of Chametz, earlier we said that it wasn't possible. You have a clear Braita that says that Amar Lehe, Rav Hixon said, if you see like the students, don't tell any of them about this Braita. I hope he's joking. He's saying if you don't tell them because they'll celebrate that they have a Braita refuting it. They found fruits, and if he stole fruits and it rotted, you can tell the owner, here it is. But tonight, Mishnah, a different Mishnah said, you pay. If you stole fruits and they became rotten, you pay the time of the robbery. So which one? Can you return it or not? First case is where you can't return if they're completely rotten. According to the Braita, where you can return as is when it became only partially rotten. If someone gave a craftsman something to fix and they ruined it instead, I have to pay. There I have to pay. Someone gave a carpenter a carriage, a box, a closet to fix, because he ruined it, he has to pay. We'll explain why seemingly same thing. Allowed the store the kotel. If a builder was hired to break a wall, if he broke the stone or damaged them, he has to pay. He was supposed to take down the wall, not destroy the stuff. He's destroying it from one side. But if it broke down from the other side, patur. He's patur. But if because he hit it hard and it fell from the other side, chayav, you are chayav. Marabasi says the guy who's the chayav to pay for what he ruined. Only time you're chayav is when you gave him a fixed, a full item, the fully furnished item, and he was supposed to nail it in. And he drove a nail into it, and it broke it. It seems not so they gave him a wood to make this project. And he made it, and then it broke. Not your patur, my time. The guy acquires the utensil, and he acquires it via the improvement he makes to it. What does that mean? There's two ways of looking at how you hire someone to build something for you. Are you hiring them for their wage to build it? Every day you're paying them X amount of money. Or this opinion is when they are building your table, they own the table, and they own the improvements to the table as well. And therefore, when you want to pay him for the table, you want to pay him for his wages, you're paying for the improvements that he made. And therefore, over here, if he broke it afterward, he's patur. Tonight is Mishnah. Someone gave an item to the guy to work and he broke it. My love, it seems maybe some other case of wood, and we still see and he made it into the carriage and he still ruined and he still chayav. The Gemara says, La, Shida Teva, referring to the case where he gave him the finished product. The Gemara says, but the second part of the Mishnah said, Shida Teva. Our second part of the Mishnah said that it was referring to an item, which means the first part of the Mishnah where he said he just gave him something to fix sounds like it was just wood and not an item. And you still chayav. When it says Amri Perusha Kamifarish, it's not two separate cases, it's talking about the same exact case, it's explaining the case. The first part of the Mishnah that says you gave someone to fix it and they ruined it, you're chayav. What's the case? Referring to the case where you gave the guy, the carpenter, a carriage to fix, or a box or a closet, and then he ruined it, you're chayav. It also makes sense to it's referring to the case of what is this case, like our Mishnah, what is the case of when you gave somebody an item? These are the if you think the beginning of the Mishnah is talking about actual wood and he built it. If the first case was really just pieces of wood and you'd be chayav, we don't say that he acquired it in the improvement, like we said earlier. Which you need bring me a second case that if you actually gave him an item and he broke it, of course he'd be chayav. If he broke it after building it, so he'd be sure chayav he didn't build it. Right? Says that's not a good proof. That's not true. It's not a good proof. Tana say for maybe the second case would be clarifying the first case. Maybe you might think that only in the case of the fixed item, the set item, you're chayav if he's trying to fix it. But in the cases of wood patur, Tana say therefore, the Braita mentioned the second case of the item, the carriage, the box, or the closet, which means in the first case of the wood, even in that case, you're chayav. Proof according to the Baseh. Someone gave wool to a guy to dye it, and then and the vat burned it. Repay the value of the wool. It sounds like you pay for the wool. We don't pay for the improvement to the wool. Is referring to the case maybe where the vat burned it after he dyed it. The Iga Shivcha, where already was the improvement, which and still we see Uman Kone B'Shavakli. A guy inquires it, and you are chayav. When I said no, he burnt the wool while it was dying, and Lika Shivcha, there is no improvement, therefore he's not chayav for the improvement. What would be the case if he burnt it afterward? But he sounds like he would pay for the improvement. Maybe let's hold it Rosh Shmuel did not hold like Ravasi. Right, so we try to bring a proof that he holds like him. Now we're saying the fact that it's not that way, maybe it's like proof against him. Rosh Shmuel was not necessarily. Maybe it's the case of the Mishnah. Maybe it's the case of the wool and the dye belong to the guy. The guy's hiring the dyer, but giving him the supplies. But the dyer is only being paid for his work. Where it says that's the case, then the Mishnah should have said that you should pay him for the value of the dye and the wool and the dye. If he gave him the supplies, he should repay the supplies as well, all the supplies. But Shmuel no, not necessarily. Shmuel wasn't necessarily saying that it has to be the case. He was just saying that he doesn't necessarily hold like Rav Aseh. It's not a perfect match, but in a Harami, that's possible that it is the case where he gave him these supplies as well. Amen.